It is one of those numbers that just really hits you. The number of Baltimore City school students that we've lost to gun violence since just the start of 2023.
The most recent victim was 16-year-old Izaiah Carter, the Patterson High School student gunned down in a park right next to his school. Today we're taking a deeper look at just how common gun violence has been among youth in our nation.
WMAR 2 News' Brittany Werner is analyzing the statistics around violent youth crime involving young people.
Well, since August of last year, 16 Baltimore City students have died as a result of gun violence. Today, we spoke with experts who talked about this public health crisis and what it's going to take to fix it. Between 2019 and 2020, American health professor Daniel Webster says gun violence, gun sales, and the presence of ghost guns have substantially increased throughout our nation.
We had never seen such a sharp increase in homicides from one year to the next. A 35% increase. Now, youth were part of the same trend. Trend data show that the increases for teenagers being killed with guns has increased even more so than for adults.
Professor Webster says if you contrast 2019 with 2022, there's a 65% increase in the number of teens with firearms in the United States. This week, outside Patterson High School, 16-year-old Izaiah Carter was shot to death. He's just one of several students we've covered being involved in gun violence near school grounds this year. Webster blames easy access to guns and challenges in disadvantaged communities as part of the reasons for this public health crisis.
Guns are more available in their environment. Too many of our youth are being shot, but they're often the hardest to reach youth. More young people feel threatened. They feel that their life is at risk, and they can't rely upon public safety systems, police, or others to protect them. So what do? They try to find a gun.
He says this idea could then become socially contagious, causing youth to think firearms is their only form of protection, further perpetuating this dangerous mindset of violence.
Part of the reason Baltimore has a very high rate of homicides and homicides involving youth is that we have too many pockets of concentrated poverty and disinvestment. It's a heartbreaking situation right now, and I hope we act with urgency.
So you mentioned strengthening those support services, but what are some other things that we can do as a community to get the ball rolling to change this narrative and the culture around violence?
We want youth in Baltimore to be safe. We have to also think about how do we get investment in communities that have suffered from structural racism and disinvestment. We should feel this is a crisis right now. And we should really set our minds to solving it. We're failing our youth. Let's do what we can now, but let's also have a mindset to longer term. How do we strengthen our schools, our social support systems for kids?
All right, Brittany, you mentioned that there's this mindset of violence. Did he talk about other ways the community can get involved in changing the narrative around youth and violence?
He did. He actually mentioned some of the community organizations like ROCA who are doing it correctly because they sort of cater to that age group of teens and young adults who need the help. He says changing the mindset and the way they think about solving conflict is going to be the most rewarding when it comes to combating crime, along with strengthening those support services, those social support services in the community that are often the reasons that crimes are committed in the first place due to lack of resources.
All right, they got to tackle this problem. Thanks a lot, Brittany.